Bill Simmons, Grantland Basketball Hour tonight at 7 Eastern. Billy joins us now. Your reaction when you saw the Wells report was what, Bill?
First of all, I'm glad you're bringing on Tony Dungy. I'm sure that'll be an unbalanced take. I love all these people who the Patriots kicked their butts over the last 15 years, now in the media, coming out and acting hysterically about Deflategate. I'm just pointing that out. We could go through about 15 names right now, but we don't need to.
You can go through them.
Well, they know who they are. Bill Polian, Tony Dungy, Marshall Faulk. I could keep going. My reaction was, this is a classic case of, I think the offense wasn't nearly as bad as what happened afterwards, and I think the way Brady handled this in the few days, and maybe even 10 days, whatever after the news broke, was his mistake. And I think if they had, my personal feeling on what happened is Brady likes the balls a little deflated. They probably deflated them right around 12.5 or whatever, but figured out a way that, once the balls were measured, you heat them up or whatever, but then the heat kind of leaves, and then it ends up the ball is like 12 or 11.5, wherever he likes it. And it was illegal, but legal the way they're doing it, right? Because the balls, at the time they're being measured, they are 12.5, but an hour later maybe they're 12. And they just probably had some system. And then, for whatever reason, they didn't measure them correctly. And then all of a sudden, the Colts catch on, turns into this thing. And I think it's just like so stupid, this whole thing. Like, this is PSIs. This isn't pounds. Yep. It's not 12.5 pounds. It's 12.5 PSI. I don't even know what PSI is. But you're talking about these balls that are like, 7%, 8% less deflated or more deflated than they should be? This shouldn't be something that haunts him for the next 60 years. But we know how sports works, and this is going to be brought up with him for the rest of his career. And it just seems like such a low-stakes thing. I wish he had just come out from the beginning. Clearly, he knew something was going on. I wish he had just been a little more forthright in the first week.
What would you do now if you're Brady?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I think, not to defend him, not to defend my QB who won me 4 Super Bowls, but I think these guys are in the moment. He's trying to win the biggest game he's had. I would argue it was even a bigger game than the 2011 Super Bowl, because now he's nearing the end of his career. He hadn't won the Super Bowl since February 2005. It had been a full 10 years. You never know if you're going to get back. He likes the team he has. He knows they have a real chance to beat Seattle, and he's trying to lock in on the game. And here's this little stupid nuisance with the Colts, who he had just beaten by 35 points, who are trying to claim that they did something to the balls, and he knows maybe something minor happened, but he just wants the thing to go away. And I think he just handled it badly. And I don't know how you fix that, because, as you know, this is a very unforgiving sports culture in 2015. It's all about extremes. Everything's either the best or the worst. You're either the most dishonest person ever or you're the best person ever. And this is just the way sports is now. This is how we consume it. And he's not going to like it, but I think this is something that's going to follow him.
Yeah, I think it stays with him. But I just thought we want you to at least admit. It's when you drag it out and then all of a sudden it comes out, and then I think that's where people get really angry with this. But I don't know. It's easy to say now, Bill, that if he said, look, these balls were not inflated the way they should be, there's a variance here, and you know what? It's sort of the unwritten rule with quarterbacks, that you can get a ball that to your liking. If he could have said something that kind of couched it or softened it, I think he was worried that this was going to overshadow the Super Bowl, and
right.
I think that's probably why he was choosing his words carefully. He didn't do a good job, but he was choosing his words carefully. I feel bad for Robert Kraft he went all in. He put his chips in the middle of the table with the commissioner, saying, "I want an apology," and Belichick going Bill Nye Science Guy there at his press conference there. I don't know what they knew. But that was the conversation I'd like to hear that Brady had with them or will have with them.
Well, can we say one thing about the Wells report? I mean, you can't say it was the most convincing report. everything was kind of, it might have happened, it probably happened, it could have happened. They didn't actually have any evidence. And then the big quote-unquote smoking gun is that Brady wouldn't turn over his cell phone. Well,
yeah.
why would he?
I have no problem with that.
Who the heck would turn over their cell phone? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole private life is on his cell phone. He's going to turn that over to these random people? He doesn't, with the way things get leaked, especially in the NFL, you'd have to be crazy to do that. And I was surprised that the ball boy people turned it over.
Well, they had to.
They had to.
They had those are Patriot phones. They're employee phones.
Oh, you're right. But it's like, to me, it would be hypocritical for me to say I wasn't a little disappointed, just by the whole thing, just because this is the same reason that the Goodell Ray stuff drove me crazy, because it wasn't 100% that Roger Goodell didn't know about the second elevator video, but if you piece together all the evidence, it would have been impossible for him not to know about it. There was too many people knew about it, and the way he approaches all of his investigations, he tries to find out as much as possible. So for anybody to say, oh, my God, he was blindsided by what happened inside the elevator, it just didn't add up. And with this Brady thing, I don't know what sort of mechanisms were in place for them with the footballs. And I really do think they probably their process was just keep them at the lowest possible PSI level heading into when the referees check it. But, whatever happened afterwards wasn't great. And I also think it has to be mentioned, the way they actually measured the footballs was pretty shaky, right? I mean, they didn't even measure all of the Colts balls, and, Walt Anderson didn't even write some of the measurements down. It just this wasn't exactly like a open and shut investigation. The whole thing was kind of poorly handled, I thought.
What do you think the commissioner wanted with this investigation?
It's a good question. Well, especially because Kraft was one of his biggest protectors. It does seem like they kind of set up a sting, for lack of a better word, with the Pats. The Colts complained, and instead of passing those complaints on to the Patriots, it was like, well, let's see if we can catch him. It's almost like, hey, I think my nanny's stealing money from my dresser. I'm going to put a camera in the bedroom and see if I can catch her. But I don't really know what the purpose of a sting is in this kind of situation when the stakes are this small. First of all, second half of the Colts game, he threw 4 TDs with the properly inflated balls. The balls were inflated properly in the Super Bowl. He threw 4 TDs. He went 37 for 50. He had 2 of the greatest consecutive back-to-back fourth-quarter drives in the history of football. So clearly the football, it's not like this was something that was making him, noticeably better. I think quarterbacks are weird. I think field goal kickers are weird. I think punters are weird. I think they just like their balls certain ways. I don't think there's anything nefarious about it.
What do you think happens opening night? Who's the starting quarterback for the Patriots against the Steelers?
Well, man, do you think he'll get suspended for this?
Yeah.
It seems like people think that.
Yeah, I do.
But
because
why not suspend him when the Wells report comes out? What are they waiting for? They had this thing for 4 months. I think it's so clear that they released this report and they're just gauging public reaction.
That's true.
For 24 to 48 hours. There's no question they're doing that.
The NFL didn't used to do that. Now they're basing things off of reaction, and they never used to do that. So the tail wags the dog with the NFL, which is kind of surprising. I think they're waiting to hear, 2 games, 4 games. You got to take away a draft pick. I think that they're just kind of taking all that information in before they make a decision on this punishment.
Well, I'll go further than you. I think it's pathetic, and I think he has handled so many things so badly, Roger Goodell, that it's reached a point now where you have something like this where it took 4 months to release the report, and he knew everything that was in it. He knows the results before the report comes, is released to the public, and yet doesn't have the testicular fortitude to do anything until he gauges the public reaction. Look at the difference between that and Adam Silver, who's done a great job with the NBA this first year and a half. Adam Silver gives the MVP to Steph Curry the other night. Gets a huge ovation from the Warriors crowd. Everybody's like, hey, it's Adam Silver. We love that guy. That guy's working in our interests. He's making the league better. Let's give him some applause. And then you have Goodell the week before the draft. He's literally getting booed off the stage after every pick. That's where the NFL is right now. Look at the difference in how Adam Silver was treated before Game 2 in the Warriors game versus the NFL draft. That's the NFL right now.
He's Bill Simmons, Grantland Basketball Hour tonight at 7 Eastern on the Mothership. Billy, good to have you on. Keep fighting the good fight.
Well, I'm licking my wounds, but we do have 4 Super Bowl DVDs. I just want to point that out.
Go Celtics. Enjoy Kevin Love next year, okay?
We will. We're sorry we hurt you, Kevin Love. Please come to Boston.
Thank you, Bill. Bill Simmons, Grantland.